The story began in the beautiful land of Oz, where citizens have learned that the wicked evil Witch of the West is now dead. Everyone is excited by this news and began to celebrate. Moment after Glinda the Good Witch descends to greet everyone and confirm the evil which is truly gone. Soon after they began to sing and chant "No one mourns the wicked." Before Glinda leaves, a young girl asks, "Why does wickedness happen, and is it true that Glinda and the wicked which were once friends?" Glinda then began to narrate, and we are then taken to a flashback. The witch, Elphaba, was the daughter of Governor Frexbar Throp and his wife Melina, though she was conceived from an affair with another man. Frexbar shunned Elphaba after she was born with green skin, which is uncanny and unnatural, but she was raised lovingly by her nurse, Dulcibert. When she was just a little child, Elphaba was protective of her younger sister, Nessarose, who was bound to a wheelchair and born before their mother passed. Just as the two sisters play and bond, some kids arrive and begin to chant some hateful word to bully them. Elphaba's anger furiously causes rocks on the ground to rise up and strike the children, making them leave in tears. Just then, Frexbar comes out to scold Elphaba as Nessa keeps crying. Meanwhile, the story between Glinda and Elphaba all begin when the two both attended the Distinguished University to learn, control, and practice magic. However, during her arrival, she finds an admirer in a munchkin named Bach, while Elphaba arrives with Nessarose. Everybody quickly mocks Elphaba for her green skin, but Glinda makes a public display by singing in order for them not to stare at her. Glinda uses sarcasm to put up with it, before introducing herself and explain to them that she has always been green and she did not eat grass when she was small. Later on, Glinda offers to help Elphaba, but she rejected as she believes Glinda wouldn't have care less what other people think and immediately reject her offer. Glinda quickly befriends Fanny and Shinshin. That same day, the students gathered as an individual named Madame Morrible addresses them in order to congratulate them for their admission and to officially start the year calendar. Nearby, a woman named Miss Coddle starts to wheel Nessa away, despite her insistence that she can take care of herself. Elphaba tries to stop Miss Coddle, which unfortunately causes her powers to go off and make several things and people in the area float in air, and one bench hits a plaque on the wall. In total confusion, the two sisters just stood together and watched the fear in everyone's faces. Meanwhile, Madame Morrible from afar observed Elphaba's gifts. While Nessa isn't happy by all this, as she really wanted to leave a fresh year and everyone not seeing them as weirdos, Elphaba apologized, but Nessa leaves upset. Just then, Madame Morrible arrived at the scene, claiming that she did the magic that just happened in order to prepare them to expect the unexpected here. Later, to both Glinda and Elphaba dismay, they are put in the same room by Madame Morrible, where they quickly start to hate each other. Madame Morrible seeks to privately speak with Elphaba. During their discussion, she asked Elphaba how long she has had this powers, but Elphaba informed her that she doesn't remember and believes she has had this ever since she was born. Madame Morrible is of the opinion and idea that she wants to take Elphaba under her wing so that she may eventually meet and work with the legendary Wizard of Oz, teaching her how to use and control our powers. Elphaba starts to feel, for the first time, that things are starting to look up for her. Elphaba got to her room where Glinda seems to welcome her into their room and also showed her around her room. While in their room, Elphaba is frustrated about Glinda asking her about the incident that occurred earlier, stating she knows it was Elphaba who did the magic and not Madame Morrible. This alone made Elphaba very furious, which then made her reveal our powers. Much later, both Elphaba and Glinda attend a class where they are being taught by a goat professor, Dr. Dillamont. Glinda gives him a hard time for being unable to pronounce the guy in her name, but Elphaba defends him. Soon after the lecture starts as Dr. Dillamont teaches them history, so during the lesson, Dr. Dillamont finds that someone wrote, "Animals should be seen and not heard" on the board, in a sad way. Dr. Dillamont asked who was responsible for that nonsense, but no one answered. So Dr. Dillamont dismissed the class early in despair. However, Elphaba stays behind to help him clean up after he spills something. He thanked Elphaba for her kind gesture, and agreed to be her friend since Elphaba revealed that she has none. That same day, Madame Morrible tried to teach Elphaba how to control her powers, but it seems not be working. The woman then had a discussion with Elphaba regarding the incident that occurred in Dr. Dillamont lecture. While she narrates how she feels about such act and why people act in such petty way, her powers are then revealed here again. At night, Elphaba overhears Dr. Dillamont meeting with other animals, as they discuss how animals in Oz are being subjugated and losing their ability to speak. Dr. Dillamont spots Elphaba, and they express shared concerns. Elphaba believes that the wizard can help fix things. Afterwards, Elphaba goes out into the woods, where she meets a handsome prince named Fiero Tigalar, also known as a Winky. While Fiero is charming enough, Elphaba tries not to fall for it and comes off as defensive around him. He asked if she eat grass, which really pissed Elphaba off. Meanwhile, Glinda is busy putting on her makeover, and once she was done, she heads straight outside where she met with the prince. She tried charming him with her beauty, which seems to work perfectly well. The two entered into a building, and Fiyero organizes a sing with every other person joining him. Glinda sets her sights on making him her boyfriend, while she also tries to push Bach to talk to Nessa Rose so he can leave her alone. Later that evening, Glinda and other individuals prepared themselves for a bigger dance party, which was hosted by Fiyero. They all got to the event, and it was indeed a hell of a dance which grew out into a huge party. Since Glinda had pushed Bach away to meet Nessa earlier, Bach ends up dancing with Nessa after he sees Glinda messing up with Fiyero and kissing him also. Soon after, Elphaba enters wearing a pointy black hat that Glinda and her friends gave her as a mean joke. Everyone began to stare at Elphaba like an outcast. Elphaba wasn't letting this get to her skin, or her, so Elphaba starts to dance by herself without the music playing since they had stopped it the moment she entered. Everyone else mocks her, putting up a front to hide her emotions, but Glinda and Fiyero can see through it. Glinda then starts to join Elphaba in the dance, and they share an emotional embrace as now Elphaba is in tears. So Elphaba hugged her afterwards. Everyone began to dance too, and the party continued. Elphaba and Glinda now consider themselves friends. At home, Glinda and Elphaba had a long discussion on trying to know more about each other. Glinda learns that she has gotten a spot at Madame Morrible's sorcery seminar as thanks for setting Bach up with Nessa. As thanks, Glinda gives Elphaba a makeover. Next day, everyone gathered at the history lecture hall, but unfortunately for them, Dr. Dillamont gave his goodbye to the student, as he informed them that he is leaving Shiz since they are no longer allowing talking animals to work there. Just then, some officers walked in and forcibly removed Dr. Dillamont, in distress before being replaced by the rotten Professor Nicodic. He starts his lesson by introducing a frightened lion cub inside a cage, something he considers a great new invention, and further explained to them the many benefits of caging a wild animal at a tender age. However, Elphaba unknowingly produces a spell that puts everybody, including their lecturer, but except Fiyero, to sleep, and she joins Fiyero as they sneak the cub out of Shiz and take it into the woods for safety. Madame Morrible arrived into the hall, and she is surprised by what she had seen. Meanwhile, after Elphaba and Fiyero free the cub, they both begin to talk about Elphaba and why she is always caring. The two appear to share a moment, but Elphaba doesn't think Fiyero would ever see her the way he sees Glinda, as she stated that, "I'm not that girl." A few days later, Madame Morrible informed Elphaba that the wizard wants to meet her after hearing of how her talents have grown, and now she only need to prove herself now. Elphaba informed her that she isn't ready yet, but Madame Morrible encourages her to honor their calling. Elphaba later agreed while Glinda prepares to bid Elphaba farewell, and also announces that, in honor of Dr. Dillamond and express her outrage, she will henceforth just be known as Glinda. Bach compliments Glinda, which Nessa overheard. Glinda is also bothered by the fact Fiyero has changed towards her. However, the train starts to leave, but Elphaba gets Glinda to join her as they head towards the Emerald City. The two then arrived in the Emerald City. Elphaba and Glinda witnessed the citizens, with cameos from Adina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, putting on a show named One Short Day to talk about how great the wizard is. Later on, Elphaba and Glinda are then brought to meet the wizard himself. He appears charismatic and questioned if Elphaba wishes for him to do something about her green skin, but she says she wants his help with the animals of Oz. Glinda introduced herself and had a pretty good conversation. A moment later, Madame Morrible joins them. They show them the Grimoire book. They are all wowed by this. Afterwards, Madame Morrible guides Elphaba to read from the Grimoire, which is simply a very powerful spellbook. As Elphaba reads an incantation, the monkey guard, Chisteri, starts to painfully grow wings on his back. Madame Morrible informed her it was just a transition, but Elphaba feels very sad by this, and doesn't believe it is just a transition, and asked how she could reverse it since this wasn't what she wanted. Madame Morrible then informed her that a spell from Grimoire can't be reversed. Later on, Elphaba then sees the same thing happening to all the other monkeys. The wizard and Madame Morrible are delighted at this success, as they think the monkeys can make great new spies across Oz, as this was all her plans all along. Elphaba quickly realizes that the wizard is not only responsible for what is happening to the animals, but he is also a fraud who is incapable of performing magic. She knows they needed someone with actual magical gifts to unlock the Grimoire's powers. They tried convincing Elphaba, but she leaves immediately. Madame Morrible ordered Glinda to go get Elphaba back. Madame Morrible then sent the monkeys and other guards to go after both Glinda and Elphaba. A chase began, and they are chased through the tower and attempt to escape on a hot air balloon, but their path is blocked, and the balloon bursts after they escape. Madame Morrible soon announces to the entire city that Elphaba is now an enemy and a wicked evil witch. The two make it to the attic, where Glinda tries to convince Elphaba to make peace with the wizard and Madame Morrible, but Elphaba refuses. She is set to make her escape and tries to get Glinda to join her as she preparetto use spell to escape on air, even getting a flying broom to go off. Unfortunately, the guards start to make their way up. Glinda ultimately chooses to stay behind, but lets Elphaba go. Elphaba crashes through a window with a broom, plummeting all the way down until she sees her own reflection of herself as a child. Elphaba reaches out and grabs the broom, then soars high back up into the sky. Her powers cause a powerful surge across Oz as she declares that the wizard is never going to bring her down. Elphaba's little sister listened to her on the radio in sadness. Glinda can only look up in sadness also, while the rest of Oz now views Elphaba as a supervillain. Soon later, Elphaba flies off on her broom and disappears. The movie titled Wicked then came to an end. Kindly subscribe for more recap like